Hello lads and ladies, welcome back finally to another tattoo story time. Been a full-on week, and yeah, today I'd like to talk about a chest tattoo that I got recently. Well, not recently, it was I'd say about 5 years ago, something like that, so yeah, not recently at all. It's a tattoo of a dream catcher. There it is. It's a dream catcher with little feathers down the side and a compass style, like couple of lines that go straight down and straight across. The colours are faded unfortunately, but one used to be red, black, white and yellow. They're meant to represent 4 races, although I couldn't fit every single race onto the tattoo. I might probably add it on later on, maybe add lines on there or something like that. Basically, what the tattoo was meant to represent was peace and prosperity to all races that I'd meet, basically. You know, and it's something that every human should really take on in certain situations when they meet new people. When I meet new people, I like to learn about their culture, their self as a character in a certain sense, and overall that's how you really make found friendships over the years, basically, and how I've managed to make a good few found friendships. I remember talking with this one chap who was Nigerian, a lovely chap. He used to go to my school, and I remember this one little fight that me and him got into with about 4 or so gentlemen. Well, I don't call them gentlemen, but you know, as far as fights were, you know, they were pretty tame. Unless, you know, it was like 3-on-1 usually, so I usually had to come in and like pull them out of situations, and you do the same thing really. And he actually introduced me to the gospel like church and all that, and that's where my like love of music and singing and all that really came into it really, because it's a whole nother level of like singing on gospel churches, basically. Like the energy is different, the music is high tempo, the pastor's always like smiling and happy and all that stuff, and gets everyone into the mood and all that, you know. So I could be thankful for him for showing me that really, and bringing me into that type of environment, because it's just so lovely. I also remember this one Jewish chap that I met in school. I can't remember his name, but he was so timid, I'd probably say. I don't know why, because he seemed like he had a decent amount of friends and all that, but he was very timid. And I went to his church, and the rabbi showed us the Torah that they had. It's a beautiful piece of parchment. Like, honestly, the way that they're writing has to be spot on perfect for it, because the way Jewish writing goes, it you start at the bottom right and then you go all the way up to the top left, and it's in perfect calligraphy. If one little mistake is off, then they have to scrap the whole thing and start over, basically. The Torah is probably one of the most valuable pieces of parchment in religious text, basically, because of just how pristine and wonderful looking the calligraphy is, basically. You know, that's why I love certain aspects of religions, like with Hindu religion. Like the stories you hear of different like gods and goddesses, like how Ganesh like lost his tusk because of being a pacifist when he was fighting his brother. Well, his brother Brahma, I believe it was fighting him, and Ganesh was too peace loving, basically, and he was a pacifist, so he didn't want to fight his brother, and that led to him losing his tusk. I'm not so sure about the full story of that, but I like that one of Ganesh the most because of his kind-hearted nature in a certain sense. He was easily my favourite Hindu god, basically, learning about him when I was growing up. So I took quite an interest in religion. Even though I'm an atheist, I don't have like any specific allegiance to a religion, because I feel like a religion is a good thing for you to believe in, to help you believe in yourself in a certain sense, you know what I mean? Religion has caused an awful lot of kerfuffle over the years, basically. No one can deny that, but you can't deny that religion has done some good for people as well. It's given them some hope to believe, it's given them some ideas of another life, an afterlife. It's given some people food for thought. It's given people inspiration. So there are some good things that it's done for people, and that's mostly due to the fact that we have cultural appreciation for different things, basically. And why I got the Dreamcatcher, because I wanted to choose one of the most tragic races out of history, and I think that is the Native American, because I feel like the Native American culture, like back in the early 15th century, 1400s, was probably prosperous. Like they lived very peacefully. They had their own lives. They had their own conflicts with one another. They had their own culture. And then unfortunately, it just got out of hand. And then America is where it is at this state is now. Basically, well, it's not a state. I mean, it's a thriving culture, and it's one of the richest in the world, basically. But the idea that, you know, a culture was nearly eradicated just for that was kind of it's kind of unsettling, really, you know. But that's what happens when colonization happens, really, you know. It's just a touchy subject to talk about. Like I think what was it, the 10,000 mile walk or something like that? It was really heartbreaking to read, like the way they moved the Native American women, men, and children from one area of the state to another in freezing temperatures, and just left those behind that just died due to the cold and exhaustion and starvation. Was just horrific to read, really. I also read some of the interesting battles that took place, like Little Bighorn. That was probably the most successful for the Native Americans. Like with General Custer. General Custer was a cunt, honestly. General Custer, I think, tried so hard to get out of the army because of his recent involvement. Well, not recent, you know, but his involvement with the Native American people. That he knew sooner or later his time was coming, but they wouldn't let him stop. And I'm kind of glad they did, because they did manage to get a hold of Custer, and what they did to him was unimaginable. But yeah, like that is like God knows how many years of retribution and revenge just brought out on the early settlers, basically, you know. So I'm not saying that all or one side or the other is guilty over the other, but history is dark, and only the victors make history, and sometimes history can tell you lies about certain people. It kind of upsets me that some Americans don't know that much about the rest of the world. That I feel really bad for some American kids that are taught that, you know, America is the only continent in the world. I'm not saying that all of them are ignorant. I'm not saying all of you are ignorant. I'm just saying that there are some small places in the world of America where they truly believe that America is the world, and it's kind of upsetting to hear, really, that the only way that they can learn about different cultures, and it's the same with China. China have a big thing of like covering certain events that they had done that negatively affected their country, and that's probably the same thing with Germany. Like after World War II, like I'd really like to learn. Like I'd like to know how they taught children about their history, because I'm pretty sure that no one wants to tell their children that their country or their leader at one point was responsible of the deaths of quite a few million odd amount of people. So yeah, I don't mean to turn this into a dark conversation, but without light there is dark, and without dark there is light, you know. But it only takes one small smidge of light to pierce the darkness, basically. Yeah, so the reason why I got this is to represent all the races, basically, in one circle. And then on top of it, it's misspelled. Unfortunately, this is misspelled. I want to rectify this, because the tattoo artist who did it, bless her heart, she got the spelling wrong. I thought I gave her the correct spelling, and I did, but for some reason someone smidged the paper up, and so they just wrote it again on what they thought they saw was Denny, but so it's Dene they spelt, rather than Dene, which is basically Dehi, which I think is a Native American term or a Navajo term for the people. And I wanted the term the people because that is what we technically are. We are a collection of people, no matter the colour, no matter like the tongue we speak, no matter all of that. We bleed the same color, which is red, basically. We bleed all the same when we are the people in a certain sense. So I'm really upset that that was like the first mistake on a tattoo that I got, because it was something so meaningful. Like, I didn't blame her for it, but I trusted her when I should have just checked the tattoo design. She just put it on and then she asked, "Are you ready?" I trusted her. She did like 2 or so tattoos before that, and I didn't know that she was like starting out. She only had done like 7 or so tattoos before, and then I was just, yep, we're good. Like, she didn't even tell me that the tattoo like lettering that I gave her was like lost. She just like decided to just do what was on it. This is the problem with some tattoo artists when they don't check their work and they don't have a good relationship with their clients. They don't trust their client along with like the work that they've been given them, basically. I'm not saying that all tattoo artists are like mind readers and like they're not magicians overnight, but a little bit of communication would have been very helpful. But then again, I should have communicated, like the specifics of the thing that I wanted, and I should have double checked. You should always double check, and that I do regret, basically. So this was done 5 years ago. What I want to do is hopefully wait for this to fade a little bit, so then I can then go over it in maybe a better font and then add the proper spelling to it, basically. That's the one mistake that I really regret having done on my body, is the misrepresentation of that word, basically, because an awful lot of people in our day and times are misrepresented in a certain sense or shape or form, basically. And the interesting thing about this tattoo is, it gave me a motto that I use an awful lot on my channel, basically, and it really resonates with me because I heard this from a Native American friend of mine who now works at a nature reserve in North America for wolves, basically. He came to my college when I was roughly about 18, 19, and then told the story about the reserve and all that. And like, I asked him about his culture, and he was all too like nice to talk to me about it, basically. And he asked, "You have like a great knowledge about it. You have a good deep interest." And I'm like, "Well, your people are very interesting. Your people have a wonderful culture and wonderful teachings to give, and those teachings always span the test of time." And the greatest gift he gave me was a motto that he heard from a grandmother of his, and she heard it through her grandmother, and so on and so forth. It's basically a Native American motto that will just go down in history as one of the best in my mind, and that is, there are 2 wolves within ourselves, one of love and one of hate. The wolf you will become is the one you decide to feed. And that really resonated with me because it's a representation that you are the master of your own soul. You decide ultimately what you do with your soul, basically. Either you tarnish it, or you give it a reputation, basically. So it kind of eased my mind about making certain decisions that could affect the future of myself and my family, and it gave me a better understanding of who I could be as a man, and not just as, some young kid thinking that he could rule the world, basically, or some kid that might get thrown into the gutter if I made the wrong decision, basically. It's kind of a balance of like living freely, so life isn't too strenuous on you, but living with a purpose to know that you are determined enough to weather the storm, basically. Although sometimes you might not think you're living a hard life, sometimes life can really sneak up on you and just smack you in the face. It's just whether or not if you are capable enough to handle it, in that situation, basically. So I have to thank him so much for giving me that motto, because I've used it a couple of times in my life. I've really resonated with it for it to bring those dark sides of my life to a light, basically. And when I needed to hide the light in those dark times when I really needed it, really. So for that, I have to thank him for that, through the representation of this tattoo, to show to all people that We are one. We are the people, basically. So that's my tattoo story time of the one chest design that I have that I really, really hope she didn't F up. Like, she did a very good job on it. She did the Dreamcatcher well. I just asked her to make sure that it was like a compass look to incorporate 4 races, and then sooner or later I might have to add on like maybe them going in here and then going in there, or the other races of people around the world basically. And then maybe add like a font at the top here covering this fake ass name, and then put the proper spelling of it over top. Like maybe I don't know, maybe something like, oh, maybe like a snake. Maybe I could like a snake that coils around the top here, like a diamondback or something, and then have the words in the diamondback's body on the top. I don't know, something like that. Something that screams Native American or American, North American basically. Like, I can't think of anything more North American than a diamondback rattlesnake. Something screams diamondback rattlesnake at me. I'm not going to go full bald eagle, otherwise people think I'm, America, but I'm not one for eagles, honestly, but that's just a trope with certain like people that get their own tattoos basically. I kind of feel upset that there are some people that get swayed from tattoos because, oh, that's basic, or like, oh, that's, oh, you're a patriot, or blah, blah, like, get what you like really at the end of the day. But then again, like, I kind of want to get a lion sooner or later, as like a representation of the pride I have for my country, basically, but I just don't know how to go about it, because I don't just want a portrait of a lion, because that's just boring, basically. I kind of want to add something to it, like, it's like getting the 3 lions, but someone had a nice twist on it, where they had one that was a male lion, the other the female lion, and the younger one at the bottom was the cub, basically. Like, and that was the representation of him, his wife, and his, like, son basically. And then yeah, it's having your nice spin on it. Like, you can have like whatever you want, just make sure you have your own little touch to it basically. Make that tattoo fit to you as a person basically. Like when I got this skull tattoo done of the Deinonychus, I wanted it like on my hand here, so it would like open and close to the fold, like see how its jaw is moving like that. Like, it's a mind trick tattoo. Like, I wanted something like that to fit the space, but also to add like a nice little party trick thing. It's just a shame it wasn't a little bit more along the hand, but because if it would have gone along the hand, it would have just made like the dinosaur's like jaw completely snap upwards, and that just doesn't look realistic, you see. So you have to have some realism, but enough tomfoolery to make it like fit you as a character basically. Give it enough character, but not so much that it looks like a Looney Tunes type skit basically. So yeah, that was my tattoo story time of my tattoo that really opened my mind and my heart to people of different cultures and the different lessons basically that they can teach you basically. You're never too old to learn something new. An old dog is never too old to learn something new, and I've always learned that from different people around the world that have taught me differently. And yeah, it's just that basically. Open your heart and your mind to the people, and you'll learn something left, right, and centre. And who knows, maybe you can teach them something in return. So yes, with that, lads and ladies, I thank you all so much for joining me for another tattoo story time. I believe the next one will be next week. Now, I don't know which I will do. I think I'll probably round off my chest tattoos, because I've got 2 more. I've got 1 here, and then I've got 2 on my shoulders that I want to, like on the front of my shoulders, that I'll show you. And then I will focus on the one on the back of my neck, unless I've already shown you that. I'll have to check. If not, then you probably won't see that. And then I'll focus one on my leg that I got recently, and then by the time that's wrapped up, I'll probably have 1 or 2 more tattoos. So we'll keep the story going. We'll keep this series alive, god damn it, until the full body suit is done. I don't know if I'll get a full body suit, but I'll get there. I'll get there. All right. Well, lads and ladies, thank you ever so much, and I'll see you in whatever I next do around it. Take care, my friends.